Ah, the boss battle. One of my personal favorite elements of video gaming. There's nothing quite like that feeling of stepping into a boss's chamber and being like, "Yo, bad guy, it's you and me now. Let's do it." I mean, in most games you're able to dismiss regular enemies so easily that when you come up against a boss you're just craving the challenge. Of course, some battles are just so downright amazing that they stay with us for our entire gaming careers. So like, for life. I don't plan on stopping. Anyway, these are my top 10 all-time greatest boss battles. Now, just a couple rules. I'm going with the usual only one game per series rule, and also just keep in mind that we're talking about the boss fight, not the boss itself. And there is a difference. I'm not going to be like, Bowser's 5th best boss of all time because he's a classic villain, iconic character, and he's always... No. This list is about the specific battles you have with each particular boss. Oh, and hey, probably going to be a few spoilers. So enough talk, let's get right to it. Number 10! Baby Bowser in Super Mario World Yoshi's Island. Hey, speaking of Bowser, this is a perfect example of what I was just talking about. There are a lot of great fights with the king of all Koopas, but this one stands out in my mind. The whole tone of Yoshi's Island is really quite lighthearted, but the boss battles always posed a very unique situation. Generally speaking, Kamek would sprinkle his magic dust, Vitamin X, on a regular enemy that you've seen before, making it humongous and effectively turning it into a boss. The cool thing about Baby Bowser is you can actually fight him at his normal size first. He uses the same ground pound move that you've been using the whole game to attack you. Once you've pounded the Kid Koopa into submission, Kamek comes along and gives him the old juice up, with titanic results. Baby Bowser is now enormous, and luckily very far away for some reason. This battle takes everything you've learned up to this point and presents it in a way that forces you to adapt to a brand new type of fight. Having to chuck eggs off into the distance at an enormous irate infant that's slowly closing the gap between the two of you is intense. The music only escalates the situation, and by the end, the kid is charging at you at a full sprint. For such a lighthearted game, this final battle is really intense and memorable, not to mention very unique. Number 9? Dark Alessa in Silent Hill 3. If you've never played Silent Hill, specifically 2, 3, or 4, for the love of God, don't start now! Before I even threw this disc from hell into my PS2, I noticed the back of the box said, "Everything you never wanted to see." They were not kidding! There's even a disclaimer when you start the game up that says, some parts of this game may be considered violent or cruel. So after being warned at least 2 times to turn this shit off and go back to playing Ratchet & Clank, did I listen? Of course not! This game has some unsettling and downright fucked up moments, but the battle with the dark version of yourself on the carousel just takes the cake. Oh, sorry, we don't eat cake in Silent Hill. This fight takes the barbecued dog. What the hell? So you step onto this carousel, and before Dark Alessa even shows up, you notice that the horses are alive, and they're hanging from the ceiling on giant hooks. Ah! What? The first thing you have to do is beat whatever life is left out of every single one of them. Then there's a weird scene transition and some freaky-ass chanting, and suddenly all the horses are draped in some strange cloth. Dark Alessa appears, looking like a clone of Heather, just all covered in that pure, concentrated evil that everything in Silent Hill seems to be covered in. The way she moves is just downright creep-tastic, and she has the tendency to just run off sometimes, giving you the sheer joy of having to weave through a dozen hanging horse carcasses to find her, some of which are still twitching, by the way! I could go on, but I won't. I'll just say that I probably have some issues because of this game. Don't play it. Number 8! GLaDOS from Portal. Portal is one of the most original games ever. It wasn't terribly long and really only had one boss, but Portal forced gamers everywhere to start thinking outside the box. Once you realize that GLaDOS is a passive-aggressive psycho bitch that's out to use you and lose you, you can't wait for the moment that you'll finally come face to face with her. By then, you've gotten so proficient at using a gun that really does nothing but create doors where there weren't doors before, you just know you'll be able to think of something awful to do to her. Dismantle her with rockets and incinerate her piece by piece? That'll work! GLaDOS delivers the usual snarky insults that you'd expect throughout the whole fight, which does nothing but fuel your rage. It's a lot of fun to see her mental state deteriorate as you slowly destroy her critical components. The best part about this whole thing is that you're outsmarting her. You're defeating this raging robo-bitch because you're clever, not because you've got more firepower. Your reward is getting to hear the song Still Alive, which has become known across the globe as a classic gamer anthem. An awesome ending to an incredible game. Number 7. Cain and Raziel from Legacy of Kain Defiance. The Legacy of Cain is a severely underappreciated series. I can honestly say that across the 5 games it's comprised of, no better story has ever been told in the history of gaming. Yeah. Soul Reaver is probably the most well-known in the franchise, with its amazingly epic intro scene that you may be familiar with due to a certain somebody's YouTube channel. The whole story revolves around these 2 vampires, Cain and Raziel, and their struggle to find a place in a world that they helped bring to ruin. They spend the majority of their time at each other's throats, and it finally all comes to a boiling point in Defiance, the 5th and final installment in the series, in which you switch off playing as the 2 of them for the first time ever. No matter whose side you're leaning toward, you're sure to be in for an incredible battle, seeing as how you get to fight the first half as Cain, and the second half as Raziel. The battle takes place in the once holy Avernus Cathedral, and is accompanied by some of the most epic music imaginable. It's moments like this that we live for as gamers. I highly recommend this series. The first game is called Blood Omen, and it's on the original PlayStation. Go play it! Number 6! The Final Nightmare from Link's Awakening. There were a lot of Legend of Zelda bosses I could have chosen, but the end boss of Link's Awakening, known as the Final Nightmare, really stands out to me. As many of you know, this is easily one of my favorite Zelda games. The Nightmare boss is found inside the Windfish's egg, which is just a big creepy labyrinth, the solution to which can only be found in a mysterious book in the library. The battle starts with some unsettling dialogue, and as soon as it begins, you realize you're standing right on top of it. Like, ew. The tone of the whole encounter is very spooky, like a super concentrated embodiment of the eeriness that you experience at random times throughout the game. The battle with the Nightmare has its own unique music, which is something I love in a final boss battle, and it can take the form of many other Zelda bosses, like Ganon, Aghanim, and Moldorm. I figured, heck, this guy's a bunch of bosses rolled into one. What better to represent the Legend of Zelda in a top 10 boss countdown? Link's Awakening does a really good job making you feel isolated and unsure of yourself, and this encounter reinforces the messages that the game has been sending you since you first washed up on the shore of Koholint Island. Number 5! Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII gets a lot of hype, but is it too much? No! This game oozes epic sweat from the epic pores covering its epic skin. Haters can't handle it. When I saw Sephiroth's second form, aka Safer Sephiroth, I was mostly just confused and kinda weirded out. But then he used the supernova attack, and a mark was forever left in my 11-year-old mind. The supernova summons a meteor from outside the Milky Way galaxy, which makes its way through our solar system, destroying everything in its path until it collides with the sun! The sun begins to go supernova, vaporizing Mercury and Venus in the process until it engulfs the very battle in which you're fighting, dealing you massive damage. Look at Sephi not giving a fuck. The dude destroyed the solar system just for you! Don't you feel special? The entire attack takes over 2 minutes to execute, which forces you to just sit there wondering what the bloody hell is going to happen when it's all over. When I first saw it, I actually thought it was a scripted cinematic, like it had some kind of plot relevance, like, oh no guys, the whole solar system is gone! We gotta avenge some planets now! But no, he can do this attack multiple times in one fight. How it works, I'll never know. All I know is it was one of the many unforgettable badass moments in Final Fantasy VII. Number 4. The Lich King. Oh, World of Warcraft. I feel like everybody played this game at least briefly. The Wrath of the Lich King expansion brought with it some really cool and interesting elements. For the first time, the end boss started showing up during your quests in Northrend to piss you off and really make you want to kill him. This was a new thing, seeing as how Vanilla WoW and Burning Crusade just kinda introduced the main bad guy once and then you never heard from him again. Wrath did away with these end boss one-night stands and created a real relationship between the Lich King and the player. Even though millions of other people were playing the same game at the same time, they did a really good job making it feel personal whenever Arthas showed up to dick you over somehow. By far the most potent example of this was the Wrathgate cinematic. If you didn't already have a reason to want to take this asshole down, this gave you one. And when the time finally came, after my guild spent months chugging through Icecrown Citadel, we finally got our reward. It didn't come easy though. The Lich King is probably the toughest boss I ever fought in WoW, and it took us many attempts. The footage that's playing right now is actually from the second time my guild took him down. See that Blood Elf Paladin main tanking? That's your boy! There was just so much build-up to this fight. I mean, once you get far enough along in an MMORPG, it's pretty easy to just start disregarding storylines so you can get on with your grind, but Blizzard did a great job of making you care, and that's why this boss battle felt so great. Number 3. X and Zero from Mega Man X5. I bet you were wondering how long it would take for a Mega Man boss to show up on this list. Now, I wasn't crazy about Mega Man X5, but the fight between X and Zero just blows me away. Just like the fight between Cain and Raziel, there's something mind-blowing about seeing a game's story come full circle until your two heroes are trying to kill one another. Granted, no matter who you're playing as, they both have decent reasons for fighting one another, but man, just take it in. For 5 games now, they fought side by side against Sigma and his Maverick army with an unwavering dedication, yet here they are. This battle has its own theme music, and it's so damn epic, I just can't even believe it. I don't even know what else to say. Just watch. It's awesome. Number 2. The final rival battle from Pokemon Red and Blue. One of the most fun and original parts of Pokemon Red and Blue was the interaction with your rival. Blue, aka Gary, aka Asshat, redefined what it meant to be a douchebag. This little shit was so cocky all the time, even when you beat him down ruthlessly, even when he's in the freaking Pokemon graveyard mourning his dead Raticate. It just makes you want to scream. Every time he showed up, you thought, I'm gonna wipe that cocky little smirk off his face once and for all, and every time he just struts off like it ain't no thing. So by the time you've struggled your way through the Elite Four, thinking your poor rival just couldn't make the cut, before you knew battling the Pokemon League champion was even a thing. Lance is all like, you're the new Pokemon League champion, or you would have been! And as soon as you see that would have been, you know. Time stands still and you say, that son of a bitch, I have to fight him one more time, don't I? Your team is already pretty much tenderized by the time you reach him, partly due to the fact that you weren't even anticipating having to fight a 5th battle, and his team is brutal. Defeating the champion for the first time is no easy task, but when it's over, he finally admits that he doesn't understand why he lost, and just hearing him say that after all this time feels great. Number 1! Mother Brain from Super Metroid. Super Metroid has withstood the test of time and remains, in this guy's opinion, the greatest in the series. This game just did everything so right. It's hard to even wrap my head around it sometimes. The final battle with Mother Brain just takes everything this game has been building up to and unleashes it in a battle that's so mind-blowingly epic you'll be cleaning your brains off the wall for days after. So, as I like to do for my number 1s, I'm gonna give you a little backstory to help drive my point home. Also, spoiler alert, the very first Metroid game took place on the planet Zebes, where Samus succeeded in stopping the nefarious space pirate leader Mother Brain from using the Metroids to take over the galaxy. For those who don't know the details, the Metroids are a very adaptable life form that can actually feed on and even transfer the energy of living creatures. So, after defeating Mother Brain, Samus decided it would be a good idea to go to the Metroid homeworld and wipe the suckers out in Metroid 2, a mission at which she succeeds, except for sparing one baby Metroid, which upon hatching sort of identified her as a mother. Samus, not wanting to kill the little guy, delivers it to some science people in a space station who plan to study the Metroid for the betterment of mankind or some crap. Only a few minutes after Samus leaves, she gets a distress call from that very station. It's there that she finds Mother Brain's right-hand man, or dragon thing, Ridley, has stolen the hatchling. She knows where she has to go and what she must do, and thus begins Super Metroid. It's time to go back to Planet Zebes, find Ridley, and get the Metroid back. You don't encounter Ridley until near the end of the game, and just when you think you've completed your mission, you find the container the Metroid was being kept in shattered on the floor. You make your way to a new area deep below the planet's surface where you find a bunch of Metroids that were likely cloned from the stolen hatchling. After exterminating them, you find a room full of monsters that have all had the life sucked out of them, and soon you find out why. A giant Metroid appears and drains a monster dry right before your eyes, and then continues its feeding frenzy on your puny ass. There is legitimately nothing you can do about it. None of the mini power-ups you've acquired can leave a scratch on this thing. But it looks like it's your lucky day. The Metroid suddenly ceases its feeding frenzy. It hovers around you quizzically, as if it's remembered something, and it's then that you realize, holy shit, it's the baby Metroid from the beginning! Ah! So you get to the end of the level, and lo and behold, it's Mother Brain, alive and well. It's not too much trouble to defeat a brain in a jar, and just when it looks like you've won, that's when this boss gets crazy. Mother Brain rises from the ground attached to a brand new techno-organic monstrosity of a body and starts fighting back for once. It looks like you're making some progress when the brain unleashes a completely unavoidable attack on you that leaves you all but crippled after just a couple hits. Mother Brain charges up for one final blow, and it looks like it's the end for you when the overgrown Metroid hatchling rushes to your rescue, attaching itself to Mother Brain and sucking the life out of her. Once the Metroid puts her on her ass, it kindly transfers the energy back to you, but Mother Brain can't be dealt with so easily. She begins to unleash a barrage of energy attacks on the baby's body as it heals you, all the while shielding you from harm, but it doesn't stop there. Once you're all up and running again, the baby comes back to finish the fight and protect what it thinks is its mother at all costs. Well, it ends up costing the hatchling its life. As it explodes, all the energy the Metroid has been absorbing this whole time pours out onto Samus, bestowing upon her one final gift, the Hyper Beam. With the Hyper Beam, some triumphant music, and an insatiable hunger to avenge the baby Metroid's death, you're able to dispose of Mother Brain in seconds. She reels from the pain with every hit, and my god, there's no boss fight in the world where dishing out vengeance feels this good. You just can't top this boss battle. Well, if you stuck around till the end, good for you. What are your favorite boss battles? You think I missed any on my list? Let me know in the comments. Oh look, some other videos I made that you might want to watch. Hey, I'm on Facebook and Twitter, links are in the description. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe or I'll kill you!